The rain hammered against the windows as I stood in my own living room, suitcase at my feet, staring at the woman I'd loved for 15 years. Linda's face was stone, her arms crossed defensively across her chest. Behind her, like a puppeteer pulling strings, stood her 23-year-old son, Marcus, my stepson of 12 years. "I can't believe you've been stealing from us," Linda said, her voice shaking with what I recognized as rehearsed anger. "From your own family." "Linda, please, just look at the actual bank statements. I've seen enough." She cut me off. "Marcus showed me everything. The transfers, the withdrawals, the secret account. How could you, David? How could you take money that was meant for Marcus's future?" I looked past her to Marcus, who stood with his hands in his pockets, eyes downcast in a perfect imitation of a wounded son. But I caught it, that flicker of a smirk at the corner of his mouth. He'd planned this beautifully. "Those transfers were paying off his gambling debts," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Linda, your son has been—" "Don't you dare blame Marcus for your theft." Linda's composure cracked. "He came to me with proof, David, actual proof. Not whatever lies you're about to spin. The proof." Marcus had shown her carefully doctored statements, altered screenshots, a masterwork of manipulation that painted me as an embezzler while hiding his own tracks. For 6 months, I'd been quietly covering his debts, hoping to get him help, protecting Linda from the truth that her precious son had a severe gambling addiction. I'd used my own inheritance from my parents, liquidating investments, draining my personal savings, all to keep the loan sharks away from our door. "I have proof too," I said, reaching for my phone. "If you'll just—" "I don't want to see whatever you fabricated," Linda said, and her words hit me like a physical blow. After 15 years, she wouldn't even look at my evidence. "I want you out, tonight." "Mom's been too good to you," Marcus finally spoke, his voice syrupy with false concern. "You came into our lives with nothing, and this is how you repay her kindness?" It was true that Linda had money when we met. Family money, her late husband's estate, the house we stood in. I'd never touched any of it. I had my own career as an architect, my own income. But Marcus had been painting a different picture, apparently for months. "Linda," I tried one more time. "I love you. I've loved Marcus as my own son. Please, just give me 1 hour to show you the real financial records." "Get out," she whispered. "I've already called my attorney. You'll be hearing from him." I looked at her for a long moment, memorizing her face, knowing everything was about to change. Then I bent down, picked up my suitcase, and walked toward the door. As I passed Marcus, he leaned in close. "Should have minded your own business," he breathed so quietly only I could hear. "Mom's money was never yours to control." Outside, my car was already soaked. I threw my suitcase in the back and sat in the driver's seat, watching rain stream down the windshield. Through the blurred glass, I could see the warm lights of the home I'd lived in, the life I'd built. Linda appeared in the window, and for a moment I thought she might be having second thoughts. But Marcus appeared behind her, his hand on her shoulder, and she turned away. I started the engine. If Linda wanted a divorce, she'd get one. But she'd also get the truth, whether she was ready for it or not. I pulled out my phone and called my attorney, James Morrison, a man who'd handled my parents' estate and had become a trusted friend. "James," I said when he answered, "I need you to file something for me. And I need you to subpoena every financial record in Marcus Whitmore's name." The game Marcus had started was about to become very real. 3 months into the separation, I sat in James Morrison's office, surrounded by stacks of financial documents that painted a picture of systematic fraud. My attorney, a silver-haired man with sharp eyes and 30 years of experience, was methodical in his destruction of Marcus's house of cards. "It's actually impressive," James said, sliding another folder across his mahogany desk. "In a deeply disturbing way. Your stepson has been running schemes since he was 19. The evidence was damning. Marcus had opened credit cards in Linda's name, taken out loans using the house as collateral, loans Linda knew nothing about, and had been systematically draining her investment accounts by forging her signature. My theft had actually been me discovering these activities and trying to quietly fix them before Linda found out. The gambling debts were just the beginning," James continued. "He's into loan sharks for roughly $180,000. But more than that, he's been defrauding his mother for years. The total damage to her estate is close to $400,000. I felt sick. I knew about some of it, but not the full extent. "That's because you were focused on protecting her," James said. These statements show you were using your own money to pay off his debts. You liquidated your parents' trust fund, money that was rightfully yours, to keep him from destroying her. Why didn't you tell her? It was the question I'd been asking myself every night in my small rented apartment. Because I thought I could handle it, I said quietly. I thought if I could get Marcus into rehab, get him help, pay off his debts, Linda would never have to know her son had a problem. She'd already lost one husband. I didn't want her to lose her faith in Marcus too. James leaned back in his chair. Noble, stupid, but noble. He used that against me, I said. He knew I wouldn't tell her. So he struck first, made it look like I was the thief. Well, the truth is coming out now, James said. Linda's attorney has requested full financial discovery as part of the divorce proceedings. That means every account, every transaction, every document. Marcus's schemes are about to be exposed, whether he likes it or not. How is she? I asked, unable to help myself. James's expression softened. David, I can't discuss. I know. I trailed off. I missed Linda desperately. I missed our morning coffee on the porch, her laugh, the way she'd edit my architectural drawings with suggestions that were always somehow right. I missed the woman who'd believed in me before her son convinced her I was a monster. For what it's worth, James said carefully. Her attorney mentioned she's seemed troubled lately. Apparently Marcus has been making demands, expensive demands. She's been questioning some things. 2 weeks later, the deposition arrived. Linda was required to appear, along with Marcus, to give testimony under oath. Financial experts would be present. Forensic accountants who'd spent months tracing every dollar. I wouldn't be there. My attorney advised against it. But James would call me the moment it was over. The day of the deposition, I couldn't focus on anything. I'd taken the day off from the architecture firm where I'd been burying myself in work. I walked through the city, past the buildings I'd helped design, trying not to check my phone every 5 minutes. It was 4:47 p.m. when James finally called. It's done, he said simply. And Marcus broke down within 20 minutes. Once the forensic accountant started walking through the evidence, showing Linda the forged signatures, the fake statements, the trail of lies. He tried to deflect, then got angry, then finally confessed to everything. I sat down on a park bench, my legs suddenly weak. How did Linda react? She didn't say much during the deposition. But David, James paused, she knows the truth now. She knows you were protecting her. She knows you spent your entire inheritance trying to save her from her son's fraud. What happens to Marcus? Linda's pressing charges. Forgery, fraud, identity theft. Her attorney said she left the deposition and went straight to the police. Marcus was arrested 3 hours ago. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt empty. A family had been destroyed not by my actions but by Marcus's choices and my attempt to hide them. There's something else, James said. Linda fired her divorce attorney. She wants to talk to you. My heart jumped. When? She's requested a meeting. Tomorrow, if you're willing. Neutral Ground, the coffee shop on Morrison Street. I closed my eyes. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let the divorce proceed and move on with my life. But the larger part, the part that still loved her, needed to hear what she had to say. Tell her I'll be there, I said. The coffee shop on Morrison Street was nearly empty at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'd arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a table near the back where we could talk privately. My coffee sat untouched, growing cold as I watched the door. Linda walked in at precisely 10 o'clock. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her normally immaculate appearance was slightly disheveled. When our eyes met across the room, something cracked in her expression. Grief, shame, regret, all flickering across her face in an instant. She ordered tea she wouldn't drink and sat down across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, filled with 3 months of separation, 15 years of marriage, and the weight of truth that had finally emerged. I'm sorry, Linda finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Those are the most inadequate words in the English language for what I've done to you. But I'm sorry. I nodded slowly, not trusting my voice yet. I saw the evidence, she continued, tears beginning to stream down her face, all of it. The forensic accountant walked me through every transaction. David, you spent $340,000 of your own money, your parents' legacy, trying to protect me from my son. I thought I could fix it, I said quietly. I thought if I could get him help. While he was setting you up to take the fall, Linda finished. I sat through that deposition listening to Marcus explain how he manipulated me, how he forged my signatures, how he specifically planned to frame you because he knew you'd discovered what he was doing. She pressed her palms to her eyes. My God, David, I threw you out. I believed him without even looking at your evidence. What kind of wife does that? A mother protecting her child, I said. I understood that, Linda. I always understood that. Don't, she said sharply, looking up at me with red eyes. Don't make excuses for me. I chose to believe the worst of you. You, who had only ever been good to me. Good to Marcus because it was easier than facing the truth about my son. She pulled out a folder from her bag, sliding it across the table. Inside were bank statements, credit reports, loan documents. The full extent of Marcus's betrayal laid bare. $400,000, she said. That's what he stole from me over 5 years. And you knew. How long did you know? I discovered the first irregularities about 8 months ago, I admitted. Small things at first. Charges on credit cards I didn't recognize. I started investigating quietly, and the more I found, the worse it got. Why didn't you tell me immediately? It was the question I'd known was coming. The one I'd asked myself 1,000 times. Because I remembered how you talked about Marcus's father. How you said he was your whole world. How losing him nearly destroyed you. Marcus was all you had left of him. I paused, trying to find the right words. I thought if I could handle it quietly, get Marcus help pay off his debts, you'd never have to know that your son had this darkness in him. So you sacrificed yourself, Linda said softly. You spent your inheritance, liquidated your parents' trust fund, all to protect me from the truth. I thought I was doing the right thing. You were, she said, reaching across the table for my hand. I pulled back instinctively and pain flashed across her face. David, please. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything we built, but I need you to understand I see it now. I see what you did, what you tried to do, and I see what I did to you in return. Where is Marcus now? I asked, changing the subject. Linda's face hardened. In jail. I pressed charges for everything, the forgery, the fraud, the identity theft. My attorney says he's looking at 3 to 5 years minimum. I also got a restraining order. Linda, no, she said firmly. I spent Marcus's entire life making excuses for him, protecting him from consequences, believing his lies. I told myself I was being a good mother, but I was actually creating a monster. A man who could steal from his own mother, who could frame and destroy the only father figure he'd had in 12 years. She wiped her eyes. I'm done protecting him from his choices. That's still your son. And you were my husband, she shot back. You are my husband, we're not divorced yet. You were my partner, my best friend, the man I promised to stand by. And when you needed me to believe in you, I threw you out into the rain with a suitcase. The image of that night came flooding back, standing in our living room, soaked to the bone, watching my life fall apart while Marcus smirked behind his mother's back. I need you to know something, Linda continued. When the forensic accountant showed me the timeline, when I saw that you discovered Marcus's schemes and immediately started trying to fix them, started paying his debts with your own money. David, I had to leave the deposition. I went to the bathroom and threw up because I realized what I'd done. Linda, let me finish, she said. I realized that I had a man who loved me so much he would destroy his own financial future to protect me from pain. And what did I do? I believed the son who'd been stealing from me for years. I chose the liar over the man who'd shown me nothing but loyalty and love. The coffee shop was filling up now, the lunch crowd beginning to arrive. But we sat in our bubble of grief and truth. Can you ever forgive me? Linda asked. It was the question everything hinged on. Could I forgive her, should I? I don't know, I said honestly and watched her face crumble. 4 weeks after the coffee shop meeting, I sat in James Morrison's office again. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The divorce proceedings had been suspended at Linda's request, giving us both time to decide what we really wanted. What I hadn't expected was the bombshell James was about to drop. David, we need to discuss your father-in-law's estate, James said, pulling out yet another folder, specifically the trust that was established when Linda's first husband died. I frowned. What about it? That was settled years ago, before I even met Linda. Not exactly, James said. When you married Linda, you became the secondary trustee of the estate. Did you ever read the full trust documents? Linda handled all that, I said. It was her late husband's money. I never wanted to interfere. James slid a document across the desk. Robert Whitmore's trust was very specific. Upon his death, the estate went into a trust for Linda's benefit during her lifetime. However, there were conditions regarding Marcus. I scanned the document, my eyes catching on highlighted sections. What am I looking at? Robert Whitmore knew his son, James said carefully. These documents were drafted 6 months before he died of cancer. He'd apparently discovered that Marcus, even at age 11, had been stealing money from his mother's purse, forging notes to get out of school, showing concerning behavioral patterns. I never knew that. Linda probably didn't want you to know, but Robert was specific in his instructions. Marcus would receive a small monthly stipend until age 35, at which point he could inherit a larger portion, but only if he met certain criteria. Financial responsibility, steady employment, no criminal record. He's failed all of those, I said slowly. Spectacularly, James agreed. But here's the critical part. Robert named a successor trustee to take over management of the estate if Marcus ever engaged in fraud or theft against Linda specifically. The successor trustee would have the authority to restructure the distributions, protect Linda's assets, and even remove Marcus as a beneficiary entirely if necessary. Who's the successor trustee? James looked at me intently. You are, the words hung in the air. I read through the document again, and there it was. In the event that Marcus Robert Whitmore engages in fraudulent activity, theft or financial abuse against Linda Marie Whitmore, trusteeship shall pass to Linda's current spouse, who shall have full authority to protect and manage the estate assets in her best interest. But I didn't know about this, I said. How could I be responsible for? You weren't responsible before because Marcus's schemes hadn't been legally proven, James interrupted. But now, with his arrest, the forensic evidence, his confession during the deposition, the trust's conditions have been triggered. As of last week, when the judge issued the preliminary ruling in the fraud case, you became the legal trustee of the Whitmore estate. How much are we talking about? James pulled out a portfolio summary. The estate is currently valued at approximately $3.2 million. That includes the house, investment accounts, life insurance proceeds that were placed in trust, and various other assets. Linda has been living on the income, but the principal was supposed to be preserved for Marcus's eventual inheritance. My mind was reeling. So what does this mean practically? It means you have the legal authority to protect Linda's financial future, James said. You can restructure how the trust assets are managed, ensure Marcus can't manipulate or access them, and most importantly, you can remove Marcus as a beneficiary entirely if you determine that's in Linda's best interest. Linda should make that decision. Actually, she can't, James said. That's the point of the trust structure. Robert knew Linda would always protect Marcus, even to her own detriment. So he made sure someone else would have the authority to protect her when she couldn't protect herself. I sat back in my chair, processing. Does Linda know about this? I sent her attorney the relevant documents this morning. She should be finding out right about now. As if on cue, my phone rang. Linda's name appeared on the screen. I should take this, I said to James, who nodded and stepped out of his office. David? Linda's voice was strained. Did you know? About the trust, about being the trustee? I just found out 20 minutes ago, I said. I swear I had no idea. Robert, she said softly. He knew. Even back then, he knew Marcus had problems, and he knew I'd never be able to make hard decisions about him. What do you want me to do? I asked. There was a long silence. What does the trust allow you to do? I explained what James had told me, the full authority, the ability to remove Marcus as beneficiary, the protection mechanisms. Do it, Linda said finally. All of it. Linda, think about this. I have thought about it, she said, her voice stronger now. For weeks, that's all I've been thinking about. Marcus stole from me, framed you, destroyed our marriage, and would have continued bleeding me dry if you hadn't discovered it. Robert set up this trust precisely because he knew this day would come. I'm asking you, as the trustee, as the only person Robert trusted to protect me, to do what needs to be done. This means Marcus gets nothing except a minimal stipend, I said carefully. The house, the investments, everything else stays protected in trust for your benefit only. I understand. Linda, he's still your son. And you're still my husband, she said. Or at least I hope you still will be. David, I know I have no right to ask anything of you after what I did, but I'm asking you to do this as the trustee. Regardless of what happens between us personally, protect the estate. Make the decisions I can't make because I'm too weak where Marcus is concerned. After we hung up, James returned to the office. She wants me to do it, I said. Remove Marcus as beneficiary, restructure everything. And will you? I thought about the past months, the betrayal, the manipulation, the systematic destruction Marcus had wrought. I thought about Linda's face when she'd realized the truth. I thought about Robert Whitmore dying of cancer, knowing his son needed to be protected from his own grandson. Yes, I said, draw up the papers. 6 months after that rain-soaked night when I was thrown out of my home, I stood in a courtroom watching the final pieces fall into place. Marcus, wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, was being sentenced for fraud, forgery, and identity theft. Linda sat 3 rows behind me, her sister beside her for support. Judge Catherine Morrison, no relation to my attorney, was not gentle in her assessment. Mr. Whitmore, you systematically defrauded your own mother for years, she said, her voice cutting through the courtroom. You forged her signature, opened fraudulent accounts, and when someone tried to help you, tried to protect both you and your mother from the consequences of your actions, you repaid that kindness by framing him for your crimes. Marcus's attorney tried to interject, but the judge held up her hand. You destroyed a marriage, damaged your mother's financial security, and showed absolutely no remorse until you were caught. The court sentences you to 4 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of probation. Additionally, you're ordered to pay restitution of $400,000 to your mother, and you are permanently barred from accessing any accounts or assets in her name. As Marcus was led away, he finally looked back at Linda. Whatever he saw in her face made him turn away quickly. There was no forgiveness there, no maternal weakness he could exploit. That bridge had been burned to ash. Outside the courthouse, Linda approached me cautiously. Thank you for being here, she said. The trust required a representative. I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Over the past months, I'd handled the estate restructuring with professional efficiency. The house was now solely in Linda's name, protected by the trust structure. Marcus's stipend had been reduced to $500 monthly, enough to survive on, nothing more. The rest of the $3.2 million estate was locked down, managed by professional advisors I'd appointed with Linda as the sole beneficiary. I'm not thanking the trustee, Linda said quietly. I'm thanking my husband. We hadn't signed the divorce papers. They sat in James's office unsigned, while we existed in a strange limbo, legally married but living separately, connected by responsibility but divided by betrayal. Linda, I'm not asking you to come home, she interrupted. I know I don't have that right, but I want you to know what I've been doing these past 6 months. She handed me a folder, not financial documents this time, but something else. Therapy session summaries, support group attendance records, a journal filled with her handwriting. I've been working with a therapist who specializes in family manipulation and enabling behavior, she said. I've had to face some hard truths about how I raised Marcus, how I excused his behavior, how I chose his lies over your truth. I flipped through the journal, seeing entries that were raw and painful. I sacrificed my marriage to protect my son's lies. I chose comfort over truth. I failed David in every way that mattered. I'm also attending a support group for families of addicts and criminals, Linda continued. Learning how to stop enabling, how to set boundaries, how to love someone while still holding them accountable. That's good, I said, meaning it. You needed that. I need you, she said simply. But I understand if that's not possible anymore. What I did to you, believing Marcus, throwing you out, refusing to even look at your evidence, it's unforgivable. I know that. I closed the journal and handed it back to her. It's not unforgivable, I said slowly. It's just, I don't know if I can trust you again. When things got hard, when you had to choose, you chose him. How do I know you won't do that again? Marcus is in prison, Linda said. But more than that, I've changed. Not because he's gone, but because I finally see what my enabling created. I created a monster, David. By protecting him from consequences, by believing his lies, by choosing him over reality, I turned my son into someone who could do what he did. He made his own choices. Yes, but I made them easier, Linda said. And I'm living with that. Every day I'm living with the knowledge that my weakness destroyed everything good in my life. A car pulled up, Linda's sister waiting to drive her home. To my home, technically, though I hadn't been back since that night. "The house is yours," I said. "The trust protects it. Even if we divorce, you'll always have security." "I don't want security," Linda said, tears in her eyes. "I want my husband back. I want the man who loved me enough to destroy his own inheritance protecting me. I want the marriage where we drank coffee on the porch and laughed at terrible movies and built a life together. That marriage ended when you threw me out." "I know," she whispered. "But David, could we build a new one? Not picking up where we left off, but starting over? Dating again, rebuilding trust, earning back what I destroyed?" I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd loved for 15 years. Diminished by grief and regret, but somehow stronger too. She'd pressed charges against her own son. She'd done the work, faced the hard truths, stopped making excuses. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I'm not ready to come home. I'm not ready to just forgive and forget." "I'm not asking you to forget," Linda said. "I'm asking for a chance to prove I've learned. To prove that I can be the partner you deserved all along." Her sister honked the horn gently. "I have to go," Linda said. "But David, thank you for protecting me even when I didn't deserve it, for being the man Robert trusted to safeguard his family, for being better than all of us." She walked toward the car and I stood there watching her go. "Linda," I called out. She turned back, hope flickering in her eyes. "Coffee next Tuesday, Morrison Street." Her smile was tentative but real. "I'll be there." 3 years later, the architectural plan spread across the dining room table showed an addition to the house, a studio space where Linda could pursue the painting she'd always put off. I was marking up the designs when she came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "You're going to make it too big," she said, looking over my shoulder. "You're going to fill whatever space I give you," I countered, leaning back into her embrace. The road back hadn't been easy. Therapy, both individual and couples. Hard conversations, setbacks and breakthroughs. Slowly, carefully, we'd rebuilt trust. I'd moved back home after 8 months of dating my own wife, and we'd renewed our vows on our 17th wedding anniversary. Marcus was out of prison now, living in another state. He'd made attempts to contact Linda, full of apologies and promises to change. She'd responded once through her attorney, making it clear that she loved him but couldn't have a relationship with him until he'd completed his probation and proven genuine change through actions, not words. "Do you ever regret it?" Linda asked quietly. "Taking me back?" I turned in her arms to face her. "Sometimes I regret how hard it was," I admitted. "But I don't regret the outcome. We're stronger now, more honest. I'll never stop being sorry," she said. "For what I did, for what I believed." "I know," I said, kissing her forehead. "But we've built something new. Not perfect, but real." The trust remained in place, protecting Linda's assets. I'd stepped back from active management once professional advisors were established, but I remained the named trustee, a responsibility I'd carry for the rest of Linda's life. Robert Whitmore had trusted me to protect his wife, and I'd honor that trust, regardless of everything else. "I love you," Linda said. The words she said every day now, as if trying to make up for the day she doubted it. "I love you too," I replied, meaning it. Outside, the sun set over the porch where we'd drunk thousands of cups of coffee over the years. The house was quiet, peaceful, secure. The life we'd built had been shattered and reconstructed, scarred but standing. Sometimes the lies that destroy us also reveal the truths we needed to see. Marcus's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also shown us who we really were, and given us the chance to become better versions of ourselves. The studio addition would be built. Life would continue. And every day, Linda and I would make the choice to trust each other, to be honest, to build something worth protecting. Because in the end, that's what family really means. Not blind loyalty to blood, but conscious commitment to the people who earn it.